but I think if you want to have peace in your life, you got to practice that. You got to practice learning how to let go and then surrender to the present. And so, yeah, staying present and knowing that it's gonna be all right.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of Overcoming the Odds, and I have a very special guest with us today. This guy is not only an amazing athlete, but an amazing human being. So I'm really excited to share his stories and adversity with you guys of how he overcame the odds and got to where he is today. Nahshon, thank you for coming in today, man. I appreciate you.
And thank you so much for having me.
So Nahshon, you are a NCAA champion, bronze medalist, a freak of nature athlete, but also an amazing human being.
Hmm.
Before we get into all your successes and adversity, why don't we start with a little bit of your childhood, how you grew up? I know you had a little bit of a rough time growing up,
Sure,
some adversity,
sure.
right? Why don't we start with that? Where are you from? What was life like growing up for you?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Chico, California, a little spot up north, and I'm in one of those typical families where as a single, well, I guess maybe I don't know if it's as typical right now, but I have a single mother and I have a twin brother, and I guess for me, because we're talking about overcoming adversity, right?
Yeah.
So where I want to start is I want to start off by kind of pointing out that um, for a long time I've run away from the thing that I've been running. I feel like I've been running for a long time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I look at the facts of my life, I've been born in Chico, California. Both of my parents were lifetime drug addicts. My dad was in and out of jail. My mom, again, a lifetime drug addict, but also, thankfully, 3 years sober recently.
Awesome.
I got a twin brother who is a very wonderful person, but also in jail and has struggled with substance abuse. For the last 15 years of his life since we got out of high school. And so, as far as adversity goes, uh, those are the facts of an
Yeah.
adverse life. A family that has struggled with brokenness, depravity, and essentially victimhood and poverty. And that is the facts of my
Okay.
adverse life.
Okay. Cool. So I know you mentioned, you know, single mom. What was that like growing up? Where was your father? How did you guys end up in that situation?
Yeah, I think it just came through the generations. It's uh this generational passing on of having no father around, having no male figure to be there, having a mother who is trying to make ends meet and trying to do the best that she can for her children, but having her own struggles, her own traumas to overcome and deal with. And that is just the family structure and family system. It
Sure.
where it begins, I don't know,
Okay.
but as far as I understand, this has been perpetuated for generations after generations after generations, and so for how we ended up there, I don't exactly know, but that I look at my father, and I obviously you can say it's something like trauma. You can say the experiences that they've been through, the shadows of and parts of themselves that they were not able to overcome, and then they get passed on, and then we repeat the same traumas and the same cycles in our own lives, and so that's what ended up happening,
Okay.
and so yeah, that's sort of
Was your father ever around?
um, he was always mostly in jail.
Okay.
Um, he was drugs, sold drugs, was a pimp, and was, yeah, just out in the life. And I think there was moments when I connected with him once or twice. He never lived with us. It was never a situation where he was there and present in my life for a long, extended periods of time. And when I did speak with him, there always seemed like an inner genuineness of like love for us
Uh huh.
and even love for my mother, but a person who couldn't overcome his own vices enough to, or transcend them enough to be with the family.
Right.
And so, so that was sort of how that worked.
Yeah. I got. I come from a very, very similar background. Or do you talk to him now?
No, he died in 2007.
Okay, sorry to hear that. Was
Mm.
it because of drugs?
Pancreatic cancer, they say, but
Oh wow.
who's to know? You know,
2000. How old were you?
I was in seventh grade, so probably around 12 or
12.
11,
Was that
12.
even though he wasn't, the most stable in your life, was that still hard for you?
Uh, to be honest, I'm thankful that I didn't have a dad in my life. To be honest,
Okay.
because I would rather have had what I had in my experience. Not that there weren't times that I didn't want an adult male figure in my life, because I think that God provided that for me,
Okay.
in like church leadership and in mentors and in coaches, like my high school coach. But for the most part, I don't necessarily know how well I would have done having a masculine figure in my life who dealt with so much pain, having control over my actions, and being in my environment where maybe I wouldn't have felt safe.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. If we can really quick touch on this, it's interesting you say you have a twin brother who now struggles with some of these things, because I read one time there's a set of twins. They grew up in the exact same environment,
Hmm.
same exact parents, same exact circumstances. Parents were alcoholics, etc., etc. One went on to become a successful lawyer or something along those lines. Gave back to the community, great family man, etc. And the other went down the same path as the parents. And they were both asked, how did you get along this path? What happened? To the child who eventually became an alcoholic and messed up his life, and the successful businessman and family man
Mm.
was asked the same thing, and they're with the exact same circumstances. They both, how did you end up like this? Why did you end up like this? They both said, because I saw it in my parents.
Hmm.
One saw and duplicated the exact same thing because that's all they knew. One saw and knew that that's what they did not want, and they
Hmm.
did everything in their power to not go down that path. So it's interesting. You have a very similar story to that.
Yeah, yeah, and that is the case. I recognized from an early age that that was something that I did not want to participate in. With regards to how it made me feel, I knew that there was drugs involved. I knew that there was jail, and I wanted to do everything that I possibly could, in my life to take control over my destiny,
Yeah.
instead of allowing the tendencies of my genetic code and uh, to 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 take me down a path of unconsciousness and depravity. And so but my brother, on the other hand, again, I think it was a similar thing. He saw what he saw, and he made the same decisions based on his own experience and how he internalized his experience. And it always seemed for me to him that there was like something missing for him, always something he was pursuing or searching after that he couldn't like really ever fill that space for him. And so when he found drugs and alcohol and you know and substances, it was something that he, yeah, but was it already written? I don't know, right? Like, we have two parents who are drug addicts. Was it already written that this person would be like that? Was it
Right.
they're already, it's already in us,
Right.
it's these tendencies, these addictive habits, these yeah, that kind of depravity already exists inside of in my physical body. So it's like, are we just completely effed?
Well, not necessarily, I don't think, because you have that. You say you have that in your body, your genetics. Your twin brother is as close to you as anyone else could be, being genetically the same, physically the same,
Mm,
circumstantial the same, but you're very different.
right.
What do you think separates you?
um to me, the separation, I think it was a conscious choice. I think that there was a conscious choice to face reality.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the reality was, and this is something I came to and realized recently, but pretty recently, that it's almost like I had to embrace the fact that this is a part of my life. And I asked myself, like, why did I go from Chico, California, all the way to New York? Why did I choose to pursue a wife who was, in a completely different country, a part. Why did I even choose wrestling? Like
Yeah.
these were I and now I look back at it, I'm like I feel like I was running from
Mm.
that aspect of myself.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like this hidden thing that was unknown to me, and I would downplay. I hated when people looked at my situation and were made a story about it and
Yeah.
embellished it to make it seem worse than it was. Like
Right.
to me, people were always making it seem worse than it was.
Yeah.
And it might have actually just been that bad. But in my mind, I didn't want I tried to distance myself from that.
Right. You almost wanted to hide that aspect of your life. You didn't want someone to know about that part of you because you
Yes.
didn't want them to identify you didn't want part of your identity to be that.
Yes.
You want it to be, I am Nahshon, who I am, and I've accomplished this because I've accomplished this.
Mm,
My circumstances, my past is not a part of who I am.
sure.
Um, that's very interesting. So I know you wrestling is a huge part of your life.
Mm.
How did you get introduced to wrestling?
I got introduced to wrestling in seventh grade, and when I tried out, it was a beautiful time. I was beating people who had been wrestling for years. We didn't have the money to actually go on to a club team, and my mom was very protective of us. We were in a very preserved, very Christian upbringing, and so at church 6 days a week kind of thing.
Wow. Okay.
And so that was her, I think that was her way of sort of like sheltering us from the reality of life that she had experienced, because for about 10 or 12 years there, she was sober, clean and sober, and she raised us in that space. And
Okay.
then once I got to high school, then some tragic events took place, and then I went to college, and then she kind of went into that lifestyle again for about another 10 years or so.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
When you started wrestling, did your brother also start wrestling?
He did.
Okay.
Yeah, he
So,
started with me.
and how long did you guys wrestle together for?
Maybe 3 months.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
He didn't go through high school and pursue more.
No, I remember the one time we were wrestling with each other, and I was on top and breaking him down, and he was like, "Get off me!" And we were wrestling, so I was
Yeah.
like, "No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Like I gotta hold you down."
Yeah.
And then he kept saying, get off me," and then he just broke, and then he quit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's that right there shows what one small decision in
Mm.
life. Because I'm assuming you would probably say wrestling probably saved your life, at least played a role.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And your brother, who was in the same circumstance, everything, and went down the path he's now going down, now in that one moment, because his twin brother wouldn't let him go, that eventually led him down a certain path and eventually led you down a certain path.
Hmm.
And that just kind of shows the power of, like, in a split second, what one decision, how that could change the trajectory of your life.
Yes. Yeah. And I knew too at that moment, this quitting aspect. That that had I knew that had affected him, and I knew that that was going to be a really pivotal point for him too.
Yeah.
Not that he had to wrestle, but I knew that that part of him that was like, I don't want to struggle, I don't want to fight, want to, I don't want to fight it. I think that was a part of, I think that was a part of it, and I saw that too very clearly, even at that age.
Yeah. Life is, I think, always a struggle, always a fight in many different areas of people's lives, no matter of, any level of success or accomplishments. There's always some level of fight and struggle that we have to choose to fight.
Hmm.
And if we choose to give up, then we give into other parts of outside forces into our own life, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So, in light of that, right? They like to talk about the outside forces. Uh, I sort of I sort of think that I see these like laws playing out in people's life, and I see that like these material laws and these physical and these spiritual laws playing out, that are influencing us, and like these hidden and unseen forces. And so for me, I've been like trying to learn about those principles, uh, and learn how those forces are having an effect on my life,
Mm-hmm.
and helping me to overcome the adversity that I've gone through and
Yeah.
struggled through.
I want to get into this because I know that, you went to an Ivy League school. You're very, very intelligent, book wise, book smarts, and I believe you have a sociology degree, right?
Yeah.
So I know you're very smart, and this I do want to get into this a little bit later. The difference of what you've learned in reality, real life, and what you learned in one of the most prestigious universities. But let's go through high school real quick.
Okay.
You stuck with wrestling. Did When you got started in wrestling, you said you didn't have a father figure, and mentors and coaches were a crucial part of your life. Tell us a little bit about what high school was like for you, the success you had in high school of wrestling, and who some of those crucial people were for you.
Yeah. So in 8th grade, I finally made a decision to wrestle, and I snuck out to practices. I would ride my bike down the street
Okay.
and sneak to practice because my mom wouldn't let me do so.
Okay.
She was always afraid of like mat herpes or mat worms and stuff, like all these skin diseases and stuff like
Sure.
that. And to this day, she still is, but she's a little more lenient about it. But so I went, snuck to practice.
What would you tell her?
I wouldn't tell her anything. We would always go play outside with our friends.
Okay.
So one day I would just sneak once or twice a week over there and wrestle, and then she eventually found out because I told her like, hey, I was wrestling. And one of the coaches was with me and said, hey, you think you should give him a chance? And
Yeah.
so I think someone helped us out financially, and I was able to finally get on the club team. From there and into high school, I was always very small, and my first couple years in high school, I was about 81 pounds, so
Wow.
soaking wet. Yeah, so just a fetus of a young man. But I wrestled, and I knew in my heart that I had been given this desire, and the reason I chose wrestling, even over all of it, was because wrestling for me was a way that I could take power back into my hands. Or I felt like there was so much that was out of my control, but in wrestling, I felt was the only time, it was the only space I felt I was free from the tendencies and what was going on around me and the control that I was feeling in my life. And so it really gave me a sense of autonomy, and it gave me a sense of power.
Sure.
Doing so. I had success my first year at my weight class, but as I went into high school, I was so much smaller. My success waned a little bit. But I figured that if I could just get a little bigger and actually learn the sport, that I would do pretty well. So I went to state my sophomore year, and I went 1 and 2 at state. And I remember going to this theater and praying and asking God, I know that you give me desire, so if you could please help me.
Just get bigger.
Yeah, if you could please help me.
And you were in your sophomore year of high school. How much did you weigh? Roughly.
As a sophomore, I was probably about 105.
Okay, gotcha. And that was about the smallest weight class.
That is exactly.
But many people wrestling that weight class were cutting from 115 to 120. So when you were actually wrestling them, they didn't weigh 105 pounds.
Bingo.
It must have been nice though, being able to eat while everyone else was cutting weight.
Oh yeah, it was brilliant, brilliant experience.
I remember those days.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so after that, I went to Fargo. These national freestyle and Greco tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And
how'd you do your freshman year?
My freshman year, I went 1 and 2 there, and 91 pounds.
At state also.
Oh, at state?
Yeah,
I was third string JV my freshman year.
So you weren't even on the varsity team your freshman year.
No.
Which, for those watching, whether you know wrestling or you don't, like, high school California State produces some of the best wrestlers in the entire country.
Yeah.
There's only one state tournament, as some states have. Like Arizona has like 4 state tournaments at different regions of the state. California is extremely difficult on the talent level. So you went from third string JV your freshman year to your sophomore year, you made it to state and went 1 and 2.
Yes.
Most people think it's an accomplishment just to make it to the state tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so going into the summer, I'll let you finish. You went into Fargo and did these other tournaments.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so went to the Fargo. These are big national tournaments. My freshman year, my sophomore year, and then after the devastating blow, and I hated losing. I did, especially when I had my expectations set so high. I remember my second year, my freshman year, it was my second year of wrestling, and I went to Fargo, this national tournament. I'm going 91 pounds. I'm thinking I'm gonna win it.
Yeah.
And I end up going 1 and 2 there, and losing, and like the depression that I felt from that experience, I never wanted to feel again. And I felt that exactly two times. I felt that exactly three times in wrestling.
Okay.
And but it fueled me. It put something inside of me that was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna go do.
Yeah.
And so then my junior year, I came back. I won a state title.
You won the state title your junior year.
Won the state title my junior year.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. I won a state title my senior year.
Winning your junior year, what did that feel like? What was in your mind that made you think after you made it from being essentially irrelevant in the sport your freshman year to your second year, you make it to the highest level and you go 1-2 and you feel defeated, even
Yeah.
though that's a huge accomplishment. Going your junior year, you win. What's your thought process now? What are you thinking about life, your sport, yourself, everything?
I mean, it was that jump was important for me. I mean, it started setting the stage for the rest of my life. You know, you go from going to state championships and then now winning it, and now you have eyes on you. You're kind of a guy on campus. These types of
Mm-hmm.
things, and then now all of a sudden there's expectations and pressure for you to do it again.
Right.
And so that's sort of when I started kind of seeing those things. But a lot of the craziness and all the anxiety and the fear was like, it was, even going to college was not in my mind when I won a state title. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm gonna go to this college or do this thing. It was
Sure.
nothing. None of that was in my mind. So making that jump and winning that title was huge. And then doing it again my senior year, then winning senior nationals before I made a commitment to go to Cornell. Uh, these were all things that it was like almost like life was playing out. I was seeing it
Yeah.
start to play out, like the results of the hard work, but it felt like a lot more grace than
Mhm.
than my efforts.
Yeah, so I know you got started in wrestling kind of as like a lifeline to escape, so to speak, your reality.
Mm.
Did you ever visualize what you were accomplishing prior to accomplishing it? Did you visualize that as a freshman third string JV?
Oh,
Did you visualize at any point like, hey, I might win state, I might go to nationals and win, I might wrestle on the biggest stages of the world? Like, was that ever a visualization for you?
always.
Always.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was always the biggest thing. I would always visualize myself doing and winning the biggest thing. Remember going to the state championships my freshman year and watching.
Okay.
So I was watching our team, and I saw them out there on the stage, and I was inspired by it. There was an inspiration in me that was like, I can do that. I remember I would shadow drill right after the state tournament, and
Okay.
I was a 91 pound kid, wrestling in my freshman year, and it was, I always envisioned it. Always, it was
Okay.
always there, the biggest stage. And so that way, like, even when I went to Fargo, this national tournament where all these best kids are, going back to California after being at this national tournament, because I had already visualized being in this
Right.
on this big stage. Going back to California, it wasn't a big stage for me anymore.
Right.
It was a smaller stage. It's bigger stages. I've already seen myself doing good here.
Right. Let's go a little bit deeper on that because you've done an incredible job of this, and most people I don't know. I think when they talk about manifestation and the law of attraction and certain other things and visualization, they think it's a lot of maybe like hocus pocus, or they hear these gurus or whatever talk about it. Give me a little bit more in depth. Like, what were your practices of visualization? How did that make you feel? What did it help you accomplish?
So I mean, at the time, I didn't know about the law of attraction or manifestation or like any of these principles that
Okay.
govern, um, you know, the process of materialization into
Yeah.
this universe. But at the time, I didn't realize I was using those. I didn't know I was using those codes
Right.
basically. But I would. Here's how I understand how it works according to my studies, is that like, you have this field of pure energy according to quantum physics. They say you got this field of pure energy,
Okay.
and in this field of pure energy, um, which also called akasha or the universal quantum field, anything that is possible uh, is there. and
Okay.
and and it exists in this field of energy. And so something starts off as an idea. That idea is paired with the intention or the will to be. That intention or will to be then transfers to emotion, and you tie emotion to that. And then when you tie all these things together, uh, this is how things materialize. You have this idea, intention, emotion, and then this materialization of the thing that you're wanting to manifest.
Okay.
So that's, as a kid, that's what I was doing. As a teenager, that's what I was doing.
Okay.
I saw myself getting my hand raised. I would dream. I had insomnia because I was cutting weight,
Yeah.
and so when I would go to sleep, I would see myself in the lights and getting my hand raised,
Right.
and I felt what it was like getting my hand raised, and I wanted that, and I had this intention behind it. I was committed to it, and so this idea of I was already implementing these principles, these laws, to get what I wanted and to achieve my goals, but I didn't know them to be laws at the time.
Right. You just did it because you thought that's what you had to do in order to win, or it made you feel good.
It came naturally, yeah. And I think I think that most people, I think that that's what most people do naturally. We just aren't aware of it.
Right.
We do it unconsciously, but we're constantly manifesting, and we're constantly attracting to ourselves that thing which is vibrating at the same frequency as the thing that we desire, whether we know it or not.
Isn't that incredible that we are we were created to naturally do these things and we're not aware of it, but we're literally programmed that anything that you want, you can have, anything you desire, you can accomplish, and the universe naturally programs you that way, and you just have to listen. But a lot
Mhm.
of us just don't apply those principles.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like, yeah, we're in the stage of humanity, or in that's how I see it. Like, we're in the stage of humanity where the consciousness is rising, the awareness levels are rising in people, where we're starting to understand who and what we are, and
Hmm.
that we are like these infinitely powerful beings,
Right.
that are, connected to this like great divine source, that we are monads of the divine source.
I think that it's going in both directions. I think with social media becoming so powerful, there's a lot of people becoming a lot more conscious and
Mm,
spiritual, and then there's also a lot of people becoming zombies.
sure.
So we I feel like we started like this, everyone, and then it slowly is the gap is increasing.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I see it. I kind of see that in two ways. Like, or to explain that in two ways. Like, the one thing is, it would say, like, in the material universe, the way that I understand these laws, like, love manifests through polarity. And so you have the law of love, the law of manifestation, and the law of polarity. And like, you have, yeah, in this polarity, you have, the black, white, the right, wrong, the good, the bad. But like, in my understanding, like, I feel that there is a need for us to like transcend that duality. There's a need for us to transcend this idea that not that it doesn't exist in this material
Mhm.
universe, that because it absolutely does. Because in order for anything to be created, you have to have a masculine principle and a feminine principle, and then information too.
Okay.
And so, but it's all about our perception of it. So like, the truth is, yes, there is polarity, but in transcending that polarity, we realize there is no polarity,
Oh, interesting.
you see. And
Okay.
so like, now when we look out and we see it, like, the truly neutral is to recognize that, you know that everything is one, and
Okay.
that is the true nature reality, and that it's at peace, that it's not at war with each other, that there's harmony, that there's love, there's serenity, that there's happiness, that there's goodwill, and there's loving kindness and compassion.
Dude, this is some good stuff, bro. You're sharing some nuggets.
Thank you.
That's really awesome. So let's transition. You just won state the first time. You won state again your senior year. When do the thoughts of college become a reality for you?
Hmm. So after winning that, my coach had state my junior year. My coach had sent out a few letters to some people, and one of the letters he had sent out to was Cornell,
Okay.
and some videos of my state match. And Rob Cole, who was the head coach at the time, he's now at University of North Carolina.
Okay.
He saw in me something that he wanted to pick up on, and
Okay.
so he was one of the first coaches who was like, I was talking to me all the time. He wanted.
And this is as a junior.
This is as a junior,
Okay.
yeah, or junior,
Going into senior
senior,
year.
going to my senior year, and
Okay.
maybe even more my senior year, when once they were actually able to
Yeah.
uh, have that connection. But he was on me, you know. He saw something, you know. He
Yeah.
saw whatever he saw. He was right about it because, you know, a lot of the other coaches didn't see it.
Yeah, they said, "Oh, we'll see what he does next year."
Yeah, we'll see what he does next year. And then also too, it was like, is he gonna be big enough?
Yeah.
You know, he's a 112 pounder. He's a 103 pounder. But I was thin, but I was tall. You
Yeah.
know, I was like 5'4", 5'5". You
Okay.
know, so I was a
Well, he's tall
longer
for that
guy.
weight class.
Yes, exactly.
Because most guys are like 5 foot,
Yes,
5'1". Okay. And you said that you prayed to God. Hey,
yes.
let me get a little bit bigger. You win. You state your senior year. You go to the national tournament. You win. Did you have other colleges you were considering at one point? They reach out. Tell us about the transition from high school to college and making those decisions.
Yeah. So making the decision was pretty much fairly easy because I'm sort of a loyalty type of person. So because Ra was so, you know, we had been in communication, I had considered Virginia, or excuse me, I had considered University of Virginia,
Okay.
and then like maybe a couple weeks before I committed, I think Oklahoma State like reached out, like, hey, you know, let's get you on a trip, and so I thought about going to the trip, and I actually called Rob. I'm like, hey, should I go to Oklahoma? He's like, no, don't go there. Like, Oklahoma State, no, don't go there. And so he was, you know, so I was pretty loyal from the get
You
go.
pretty much knew where you were going.
I had a
It was,
yeah.
yeah. There was no decision really. It was plain as day where you were going.
Yeah, and I was gonna kill two birds with one stone, right? Going to like this prestigious university, and then also, you know, being at a wrestling school who, I think at the time they were, I think number 2 in the nation at the
Yeah.
time. Like they were like really good.
So tell us about you. You move out to New York. Technically, Ivy League schools don't give athletic scholarships, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, they don't.
Okay.
Yeah, so I ended up doing my first year at a community college. They call it gray shirt year.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Mhm.
So you went to, but this was still in Ithaca
This was
or nearby?
yeah, this is in Ithaca. It's like about 20 minutes, excuse me, yeah, about 20-25 minutes away from the college campus.
Okay.
And we lived in this little spot called the Hamlin of Varna.
Okay.
You know, this broken down yellow house, maggots, bats, rats, rodents, beer on
All
the
wrestlers.
floors. All wrestlers. Seven of
Okay.
us, yeah, 7 of us. Just
That must have been a rowdy house.
it was, yeah. We had our fun, man. It was a shocking introduction to the culture of not only being with a bunch of guys because I didn't grow up like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a culture shock for
What
sure.
was different about this wrestling house and the I'm gonna call them your brothers. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure I know
My
wrestling's like
boys.
family to me. What was it different between that in college, your first year, and the guys you wrestled with in high school? What were some key differences?
Yeah, key differences were, I think we were living together. Two, um, there was a kind of struggle. You should have your wrestling struggle, right? You know, the trauma bonding that you have doing sprints and
Yeah.
beating each other up,
Cutting
right?
weight.
Cutting weight. And then there were social, you know, going out, hanging out, the parties, the fraternizing or whatever that word is, and hanging out with people. And the social life and the cultural aspect of it was a little bit different because I didn't hang out with my teammates in high school as much outside of where we were. So,
Okay.
but these people, we go to practice together, we ate together, we went out together,
Yeah.
partied together, like
Yeah.
we went to school together,
Yeah.
we did it all together.
Yeah.
And so that was like the biggest difference. And then obviously too, like we're now young adult men trying to figure ourselves out
Yeah.
by ourselves, you know,
Right.
which is
And you guys think you know it all at that point.
oh yeah, we know everything.
We're adults now.
Yeah, we're the
18 years
best.
old.
Yeah.
We're living on our own. We're away from home.
Yeah, we got the keys to the kingdom, man.
Yeah.
We know it all.
I love that. I love that. What was your first true freshman year at Cornell like? Did you get an academic scholarship?
So they don't know, no academic scholarship. I
Okay.
was the last guy in my group to get into Cornell.
Okay.
And because they had changed the standard by like 0.2 whatever, I don't know, GPA or something like that. And I had just like had it before, but since they raised it up, I didn't have it,
qualify.
didn't qualify. And so Rob Cole, went in and kind of made a fuss and was like, "Hey, like, no, we need to get this guy in," and he was almost gave up his job just trying to get me in. He fought really hard for
Yeah.
me, and so, but getting in, it was kind of nice to be a part of that system,
Yeah.
right? It was nice to be a part and on the team. You're now getting the gear, the A6 gear and the Cornell shirt, and
Yeah.
instead of wrestling in my high school stuff, it's like you're part of the team. You're on the team,
Yeah.
and so that was I mean, obviously a great experience, and you do the workouts with the team, and so to see myself growing from to being a kid from California. I mean, I showed up in flip flops and with a broken bag. I didn't have anything,
Yeah.
and then now to be at this school, it's like
How'd you do this financially?
they essentially paid you. The financial system worked in such a way that
You did FAFSA?
I think it was FAFSA.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it worked in such a way that if it just so happened that you were poor, because if you were poor enough, we could get you in for free,
Right.
basically. But then, like, you look at that and it's like, a lot of people who are in my situation don't make it, right? So it's like, so the fact that I did, it's like, I will reward you for making it.
No, I think it's still pretty cool because at the end of the day, you can't help everyone, and those who do get helped and take advantage of it and really deserve it, I mean, you've made an incredible impact on a lot of people so far, and I know you have a super bright future ahead of you, so I think it was well deserved. So, your first year wrestling at Cornell, did you start? Let's start with the college journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Did I start? Yeah, I started, but there was three. We were three deep. Like, we had three guys who were nationally ranked that they had
At your
brought
weight
in.
class.
Yeah, at my weight
So
class.
it was always competitive. You guys were always fighting for that spot.
Well, we were up until a certain point.
Okay.
We were up until a certain point, and yeah, we weren't. They weren't sure who was gonna be the guy because again, these guys were nationally ranked. Three really good. I mean, maybe even four, maybe actually.
Were you the youngest?
And I was not the youngest. We all came in as a group.
Okay.
So one of the
We're all
guys,
about the same age.
yeah, we're all about we literally the same age. One of the guys went straight in. He didn't do
A
a
gray
gray shirt.
Okay.
So one of the guys went straight in. The other guy was with us. The other two were in the gray shirt.
Okay.
And so getting in there, it was the only time I ever had to worry about, like, oh, this is my spot, and who's gonna be the guy, and what's gonna happen. But I worried about it just a little bit, but I knew that my efforts would pay off.
What was that like? Because I'm assuming in high school, in your area, you were just the best. It sounded like there was no competition for you for your spot. There was a competition for the spot of the state champion. What was that like? Now just fighting for a spot to be the starting guy on the team. What was that like?
That was yeah. I mean, it's a little stressful, right? But like, you kind of see, you sort of start to see how people develop in there. And I was the guy who wasn't the guy until I was the guy.
Okay.
So it was like, there's these guys who were, again, brilliant wrestlers in high school and even in college too. But I was growing at such an exponential rate that I think it started to wear even on the people who were really good in high school. So
Okay.
I was growing so fast and getting so much better and getting so much stronger that that even it's guys left too. Like,
Right.
guys were like, all right, I'm going to a different college.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So, and then I finally got like the wrestle off, and then I was the guy at the weight, and it just kind of took off from there.
Okay.
And then I got to fight for my spot after that.
There you go. So first year, how was your wrestling statistics? What happened in your first year in college?
I think I was I think I did 100 and no, excuse me, I didn't get third. I must have been 37 or 38. I had a lot of matches my freshman year.
Okay.
Bunch of matches. And maybe 6. I lost 6 matches, but I won like a grip, like maybe 40, 30, 38, 39,
Okay.
40
It's
matches.
a lot for your freshman year of college.
Yeah, a lot. And so they that was a good experience. I needed, and I all those matches, like, coming in early, I beat an All-American uh, in one of my first tournaments back, and this All-American actually beat the tar to me the year before.
Okay.
He beat me like 12-6 or something, and
Wow.
then this time I come back and I beat him like 13. I think I reversed those numbers
Wow.
actually.
Yeah.
And so, but I did really well my freshman year. I did really well my freshman year, and I had a great run. But I was I was perfect for the size. I was a
Right.
perfectly sized 25-pounder, strong, fast, explosive, but it's also still so raw and still young, still like there's
Yeah.
still much to learn.
Yeah. And so much future ahead of you.
Still so much future ahead.
Okay. And did you compete in the nationals that year? Championship?
I did. Yeah, I ended up winning the EIWA conference championship, and I went to nationals. I was sixth ranked, and then I ended up beating the national champ. I don't know if he was returning, but he was a two-time national champ and a three-time national finalist from Iowa.
Tough school.
Tough school, and his name was Matt McDonough. I ended up beating him in the quarters to make the semis, and then in beating him, I became an All-American.
Okay.
Then I lost in the semis, and then traveled back to take third that year. So
Okay.
I took third as a freshman
In the NCAAs.
in the NCAA's.
Okay, gotcha. And then you're going into your junior year. Any major life events happened your junior year? Everything was pretty smooth. Tell us anything major?
In my junior year, yeah, I was just cutting a lot of weight.
Just kind of a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Now you got bigger.
So now I got bigger.
God granted your wishes.
He granted my wishes, and for that I was thankful. But then I was very unthankful because I had to cut weight. And so I was cutting weight, and it started to wear and affect my performance. So in the beginning, I was strong, and it was always hard to make it. It was always tough to make it, and sometimes I didn't. There was at least one occasion which I did not make weight.
Oh.
And that was against, like, it was me and the number one guy, and then my coaches still bumped me up a weight class to wrestle, even though I didn't make weight. And so it was just, I just think it could have been done a little bit better, but like I suffered a little bit that year, and
Okay.
and then had my own little identity issues after I didn't make the finals or win, and lost at the tournament. I ended up taking fifth that year, my junior year.
Okay. At the same weight class as the previous year.
At the same weight class as the previous year. So I took third my freshman year, and then second my sophomore year,
Okay.
and
Gotcha.
then fifth my junior year.
Okay. And then your senior year of college, how are you doing in wrestling? How are you balancing studies and school and family back home? How was everything this last year of college for you?
It was a beautiful balance. I had finally got my own social group. I lived with people who I really, really enjoyed. I had a lot of focus. I had a lot of belief and knowing of who I am, and I enjoyed wrestling. I enjoyed the sport, and it showed. I mean, I was 37-0, and I won a national title that year, and but the balance of it was belief. It was what I held true to know who I was, and to allow who I was, that my authentic and natural self to flow through me.
Tell us about the feeling winning a national title that year. You're in your senior year. I'm sure you have the expectation of yourself to do that. What was it like that year, preparing for it and accomplishing it?
Man.
Did you go up in weight class also?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did. I did go up a weight class, and preparing for it, I already knew it was like the visualization thing, right?
Yeah.
I already knew what was going to happen before it happened.
Right.
And once it did happen, like I remember, I was with our other wrestler. His name is Gabe Dean, and he's I think he's a two-time national champ. And I remember being with him in the background right before I went up on stage, and I'm like crying because I'm like, I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
I've already seen this.
Were you ranked number one?
I was ranked number one.
Okay.
I was 36-0 at the time. I'd already beaten the previous national champ twice. One time in Vegas, and the other time in the semis of this tournament, where I pinned him in, I don't know, in 21 seconds or something
Okay.
like that. And then I ended up wrestling an Iowa guy in the finals, and then beating him. So it was like, Seeing it play out before my eyes. It was the most beautiful thing.
Was your mom there?
Mom was not there. No.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. So something that especially in wrestling, many sports people go their college years and they have this pro level, right? NFL, NBA, MLB that they eventually want to get into. For wrestling, it's much different. For those who don't know out there,
Mm.
wrestlers eventually have to figure out at some point another alternative, what they're going to do with life. There's no really pro, unless you're going to the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's not a way to produce income
Mm.
usually. What are your thoughts after winning a national championship with what you're going to do with your life?
Man, what am I going to do with my life? I have a lot of thoughts in that direction, but I want to help people. I want to be of service to others. I think that there's information out there about how the world works that many people don't realize or haven't yet come to an understanding of, and that lack of understanding has caused a lot of unnecessary suffering for people.
Mm-hmm.
And that unnecessary suffering can be mediated and alleviated through understanding, and then getting in line with these universal principles um, that exist. And so
Right.
that's sort of what I want to do. I want to be sort of a mentor and helping people learn how to find fulfillment in their lives, how to flourish as human beings, but then also alleviate any unnecessary suffering.
Okay. Did you know that after you won a national champion, I know you're still currently wrestling.
Mm.
Did you know after you won as a national champion what direction you were going to go?
No, I can't say that I did.
Okay.
I can't say I did. At that time, it was like national champ, and I kind of was like, I guess I'll continue wrestling, because
Right.
I was at the peak of my game, and so I moved out to Arizona and started training for the Olympics there.
Okay. So what was it like training for the Olympics? Because you also worked with, I believe, Sunkist kids, right? Tell us a little bit about training for the Olympics, the next big stage for you. What was that like?
Um, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a shock a little bit for me, because it was the first time I was now responsible for myself. I had my own apartment, and I was on my own training schedule. I was in a new environment, and so it was the first time I was like, I had to learn responsibility for myself, and learn, putting gas in the car, and making sure you're checking the
Yeah.
oil, and all these little things, right? Paying rent, and
Yeah.
signing contracts, and these types of things. I, and then all on top of that, training for the Olympics. And then, but my heart was, I really wanted, right out of college, I really wanted to help my family out.
Okay.
And so that was something that was really pulling me. And so when I moved to Arizona, it was really because I wanted to be close to my family.
Right.
And I actually ended up moving them in with me.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Really?
Mhm.
This is your mom and your brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now during that time, they were still both
Struggling.
struggling. Yeah. So my mom more than Isaac, but my brother, he ended up, that's where he like sort of got deeper into the drugs and stuff. And so, I had homeless people in my house stealing my stuff. I'm
Oh
like
my
trying to get
gosh.
ready for practice, and my brother's, mental issues and problems, and my
Wow.
mom kind of, yeah, just it was a very toxic environment. I didn't know that that's what would have happened, but like I didn't realize I was bringing that in. I just was so set on, hey, let's be together. We'll get you guys cars, we'll get you guys jobs, we'll get you guys whatever you need,
Some food,
some food, like
roof over your head.
roof over your head. Like we lived in a nice apartment. They had everything. They had
Wow.
everything. But it didn't change their heart, and it didn't change the path that they needed to walk on in order
Yeah.
to learn the lessons they needed to learn.
Yeah, I've learned that sometimes, I mean, you can want to help your family as much as you want to help them and have that desire for them.
Mm,
If they don't have the same desire, you can only do so much.
mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is the truth. That is the truth. And so I was like, I did the best I could there.
It starts with the decision. They have to make the decision themselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is true. And I'm like, and they didn't for at that time. They
Yeah.
didn't at that time. And so that was, I had to. It was very sad, and once they had left, and I picked my brother up one time. He said, "Come get me," and I pick him up one time, and we go to he's been doing drugs and such, and we go to Walmart. I'm like, hey, what do you need from Walmart? He's like, I just need some clothes, you know. So we go there, and he's he's not himself. And then, but it was like it was at that time that like I needed to have a boundary with him,
Sure.
because like I would bring him in and he would eat food, and I would just kind of watch him and take care of him, make sure he was okay. And at this point in time, it was like one of the first times that I had um, I he's like, all right, are we gonna go back home? And I'm like, no, you can't go back with me, because I had just moved out of the 3-bedroom apartment into this 1-bedroom apartment,
Okay.
and I'd let him know that I can't.
So you, at this moment, you drew that boundary with your
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, and it was one of the toughest things I've ever had to do. Yeah, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was to draw that boundary, because yeah, I didn't want to see him suffer.
Yeah.
Um, but I did, and I remember crying on my way back home.
And
Just
what'd you do in that moment? You told him no, and then what?
then I took him to where I picked him up, dropped
Okay.
him off on the corner or the bar, and then drove home. And I bawled my eyes out on the way back,
Wow.
and got to my apartment. And yeah, I just prayed for him, because it was just, yeah, there was just, at that point in time, there's nothing else that I can do.
Yeah.
Like I did everything that I could in my own physical strength, but like again, there are influences, and there's an unseen forces that are acting upon the lives of people for in my opinion, for their good, until they wake up. Or
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it was just an experience that was really tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about drawing that boundary line? Because some people, a lot of people actually, struggle with getting to that because they feel I can help this person. I want to help this person. If I just do a little bit more for them, I know they're gonna change. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, that boundary for me was that I had a goal in mind. I had something I was committed to, and it was something that I knew that I couldn't have these kind of distractions, because it brought pain and suffering to my
Yeah.
life. And there are these there's these universal laws that exist, and one of those laws is the law of non-interference.
Okay.
And it's basically like asserts that I really should not be getting involved in people's lives, be, unless I'm being asked. And even then, I still need to be guided into if I should be helping them, or not should be helping, or should not be helping them.
Okay.
And in that particular situation, like I knew, because I'd prayed about it, that I knew that I was not to have him in my house.
Right.
And I knew that I had to draw the line with him, and not interfere in his process. And so I think, yeah, we have like these soft hearts of wanting to help people out,
Yeah.
but we end up sometimes making it worse for them because we're in their way.
We're enabling them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, no matter what, you have something to lean on,
Yeah.
which ultimately I think is something that leads a lot of people to success, is when their back is against the wall and there is no falling back on anything for them. I think it's a very similar concept. So what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is just you prayed about this. At some point you just realized you had to choose you, and you were what's important, and you had to stay on your trajectory and not interfere with the path that he was on, the process that he had to go through.
Yeah.
That you had no control over it, and you had to relinquish that control.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So you're in Arizona working with the Sunkist kids. Real quick, how does that work?
There are clubs that have donors who give money to help wrestlers go to competitions and
Okay.
compete for the Olympics. And so this was one of those clubs that had paid me money to train with the team, the Arizona State team, and use the facilities, and to be around, and to help kind of build that club.
Okay, cool. So this club allowed you to pay for an apartment, car, living expenses. Not only did you get to do your own personal training, but then you trained with the local college athletes in order to still pursue your career in the Olympics. Cool. That's that. I mean, doesn't get much better setup than that.
Doesn't get much better than that, man. I get to live my dream for really as long as I'm willing to commit to it.
Right.
And yeah, and someone's willing to pay for that.
Yeah. That's awesome. So how long did you stay in Arizona?
I was there for like 3.5 years,
Okay.
and then I made a decision to go back to Cornell, which was not the best decision, but it was another learning experience. And then that's when kind of the COVID hit,
Okay.
and then I moved down to um, South Carolina, or excuse me,
Okay.
Tennessee. And I moved
Okay.
down to Tennessee and lived in Tennessee for 2 years, and I ran a club down there,
Okay.
a wrestling club down there.
Of youth? What
Yeah,
level?
youth.
Youth.
Yeah,
Okay.
youth in high school.
And you're at this point you're still training and doing tournaments and
Yeah,
competitions.
I was like half foot in, half foot out. So it
Okay.
was like I would train by myself, but it was just a little bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at that time.
Okay, gotcha. Just still not sure if you're gonna make that full commitment to try to make the Olympics.
Bingo.
Okay, gotcha. And you are now you this past Olympics just passed. Were you training for that?
I was training for that, and I ended
Okay.
up taking fifth at the Olympic trials at 65 kilos. But
Okay.
unfortunately, for our weight classes, there's only they only take six weight classes, and only take the number one guy. So
Oh.
only six wrestlers get to go.
Okay, gotcha. And you took fifth.
I took fifth, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And you just got back from another competition in Hungary.
I did, yes.
Would you say this is the most recent, biggest stage that you've been on since the NCAA's?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, not since the NCAA's per se, but I would say that they're not really comparable. But I would
Okay.
say that it was nice to get an international win at a high level tournament.
Okay.
It was a ranking series tournament.
What was it? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was they have these ranking series tournaments that give you certain amount of points for, and that help seed you and give you criteria for if you go to the world championships.
Okay.
And
So it's a tournament to give you ranking into the world tournament.
yes,
Okay.
exactly. And so I ended up taking third there, and I lost I lost I just lost. I got in a position, and that guy beat me, but
Okay.
I learned from it though
Right.
too.
Congrats, by the way.
I do appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Bronze medal, right?
Got a bronze medal there.
Awesome.
Got a bronze medal. Beat a guy from, I want to say Turkey was.
Turkey.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's the guy from that you lost?
No, not Turkey. Georgia. Georgia was the
Okay.
name. And the guy was from, I think he was from Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he was good.
All of Eastern Europe they're crazy wrestlers.
Incredible.
Yeah.
They're so amazing.
Yeah, they are. They're strong.
Yeah. Very strong.
Okay. So you just got back from Hungary. Tell us about what's next, what's in the future, what are you looking forward to the next year, 2 years, few years, what's going on?
Yeah, so for me right now, it's yeah, finishing up the trials and hopefully making a world team, getting a
When
world.
is this?
This is gonna be in September 14th and 15th. I'm
Okay.
in Nebraska,
Okay.
and I think Omaha, Nebraska. And after that, just I have some things I want to share. There's some information that I think is inside of me that based on my experiences and based my perspective that I feel that could be of value and of service to other people. And yeah, again, like human flourishing, promotion of human flourishing, the alleviation of unnecessary suffering, teaching and leading and guiding and counseling is something that I have a real passion for. Healing, of course, too, and just causing people to recognize that their own inner power. And so that's something I'm really looking forward to doing.
Yeah, I like that. I know you just recently released an ebook, right? Where can someone find this if they want to learn a little bit more about what you have to share?
Oh yeah, they can follow me on Instagram or even on TikTok, just Nahshon Garrett, and I should pop right up. And
Awesome.
yeah, and yeah, that's where I'm at.
I love it. I love your story. It's super inspiring, super incredible of coming from the background you did as a child, you know, struggling with parents overcoming addiction and these challenges in their own life and how it affected you as a kid and to achieve massive success and graduate from an Ivy League school and become an NCAA champion and now training to represent our country in the world tournament and something that you're passionate about, wrestling and all the giving back you do. I know you're here training at a local camp in San Diego. It's really incredible and you do a lot of good for the world. So thanks for coming out and getting on with us. If there was one piece of advice, someone struggling any point in their life, whether a child is watching this, a parent's watching this and they want to share it with their child, or they're in college and they're competing at the highest level, and they're facing adversity and all the odds are stacked against them,
Mm.
what is one piece of advice you'd like to share with them?
I would say the one piece of advice that I can share is to know that it's gonna be okay. Yeah, to know that it's gonna be okay. And I think there's several ways to recognize that and to find peace in that space. But um, yeah, to know that it's all right. And I think, for example, sitting still and meditating, I find a lot great joy in doing that. If you can find a sitting practice, uh, a practice of reflection, these things are gonna help. But I think if you want to have peace in your life, you got to practice that. You got to practice learning how to let go and then surrender to the present. And so yeah, staying present and knowing that it's gonna be all right.
I like it. That's simple but very profound. Well, I appreciate you, Nahshon. Who is one person that you know that has overcome extreme odds? As we're traveling to these different cities around the country doing these interviews, who's one person you think would be a good fit for this podcast?
Ooh, that's a good question. Oh, I mean, wrestler.
And anything.
I always think like a Helen Marula is, um, for some reason she comes to my mind.
Okay.
Olympic gold medalist.
Let's see if we can get her on. That would be awesome.
That'd be amazing.
As we grow the channel, I appreciate you guys all tuning in. Thank you, Nahshon. Thank you guys at home. I hope you guys got a ton of value. Follow Nahshon at Nahshon Garrett on
That's
Instagram,
right.
TikTok. Can you spell it for them?
Yeah, NAHSHONGARRETT.
Awesome. And that's it for today's episode. Stay tuned. We will see you guys on the next one.